G'day everyone and welcome back to another Catch Up with Kiralee. If you're new here, hi, I'm Kiralee and on this channel we talk about all things cosplay, costuming and sewing related. And today we have a very special discussion point for you. That's right, today, as per the title of this video, we would like to discuss the differences when you're cosplaying live action versus a 2D based image like manga, anime, cartoon, game, that sort of thing. So today I have 7 points to discuss about things to keep in mind about the pros and cons when deciding which type of cosplay you want to pick. And why I have created this list is because I have made both cosplays from live action and also from anime, manga, art, all of that good stuff. And it really has a different kind of headspace, mindset, that sort of thing, and I think it's worth discussing. It's also really important that if you ever get the chance to be a judge, that you keep these points in mind when you're allocating points. So without any further ado, let's talk about the 7 different points. Point number 1 is fabric. When we're talking about a live action movie, television show, or anything like this, you know that fabric is actually on that person's body. So that fabric can be very, very specific. I mean, if you've ever seen Star Trek Discovery's uniforms, you know just how specific that fabric can be. There is literally printed panels with tiny little shields. And as someone who is somewhat of a perfectionist, I would not create that cosplay unless I could get that fabric. However, when we're talking about animation, it's a lot more open to interpretation. You can choose from a range of different fabrics for your creation, and really, it sometimes can just come down to whatever your budget is. But I will also say that sometimes fabric will behave very strangely in animes that doesn't really quite work in reality, and you have to find ways around that. But more on that very shortly. Point number 2, and that is the shape. And what I mean by this is that if it's from a live action, it is on a human body. Now that human body might be very different to your body, but it's on a human body. So it can be made to fit a human body. All the proportions will be correct, even if the proportions are smaller or larger than yourself, or even if they've got some sort of muscle suit or some sort of rig underneath them, it's gonna be able to be made. However, when we're talking about animation, well, let's just say the designers have creative license to really have unrealistic proportions. I've lost count on how many animes and mangas have characters that have such long legs that I swear they actually come up to, a person's armpits. And don't forget the big eyes. Point number 3, and that is gravity. Live action lives in the world where gravity exists, so everything falls the way it's meant to fall, and it makes sense. Where anime, or any other creation that is not actually filmed on real Earth, on more than one occasion I have looked at a cosplay and thought, how does this work? I used to say that cosplay was the art of defying gravity because, trying to have a skirt with an open front but is actually like a huge ball gown at the back? How do we get that? And make sure that it's floating, but also there is no crinoline or petticoat to be seen. So in short, we have to get super creative or accept that our cosplay is going to look different to the reference image purely because gravity dictates it to be so. Point number 4, wigs. So live actions will generally have quite realistic looking normal hair. You may have like wig pieces that are big and elaborate, like Bridgerton for example. However, overall, it looks like, yeah, that could possibly be someone's hair, or, you know, it's taken inspiration from eras past. However, anime, manga, art, all of that, it's just like, yeah, we see you, we don't care. You will have every shade of colour underneath the sun. You will also have hairstyles that will defy gravity. I mean, literally Goku. It's also a case that in terms of the amount of hair, in live action, they will certainly have the normal quantity or maybe slightly thicker hair than what most people will have normally. But in drawings and animation and all of that, you will have at least 4 times the amount of hair that a regular person would actually have. Hence why splicing wigs together is a very common thing within cosplay, and why Art of Wigs is so good at creating cosplay wigs. They've got a lot of wefts. They knew their target market, and they have served us well. Point number 5, seams and closures. In live actions, you know, that's a real person that has to get in and out of that costume. So there are closures that are built into that costume. Now they may be, you know, very tricky, and there may be buttons and flaps and hidden closures and all of that, but they're there. And usually if it's a bit of a tricksy one and they're a really well documented kind of outfit, Game of Thrones for example, or House of Dragon, there will be photos on the internet somewhere of someone who has taken photos of the actual outfit that will show detail but will also show you the closures. Because you're not the first person to ask this question. I guarantee you, you were not the first. And the costume designers are usually very proud of their work. I want to show you. This is how we did it. Also, you can watch all of the series and see every which angle that this costume is being shown, and you can generally work it out. However, for animation, yeah, seam lines sometimes don't exist, and closures, well, they don't exist either. Sometimes you need an engineering degree to figure out where that closure is, where the seam lines should be, and how to put that on your body so that it looks like the reference image. Tip number 6, details. As I mentioned before, live actions will generally have a whole lot of detail. They just love to make sure that you feel immersed within the show that you're watching or the movie that you're watching. Lots of embroidery, lots of jewelry, lots of beading potentially, lots of really interesting kind of seam lines and shapes and everything. They want you to feel it. And sometimes those details can be very complicated, with lots of different skill sets and lots of different bits and pieces that you need to try and figure out how to source. On the other hand, you have animation. Now I will say this, manga will certainly have a lot more detail in general than anime. So if you are ever going to be creating a character and you want that extra detail, see if that outfit is in their manga, because you know, most animes are based off a manga, so go and check that out. But animes, cartoons, even some games have very, very simple designs and simple details. You'll be lucky if that character has a brooch. So if you're entering into a competition or you want some extra details, it can be difficult because you will need to find ways to add that and still have integrity to the source image. But yes, definitely check out the manga, and also I will say that game designs in general have some really, really good details. So half point to the animations. For the rest of it, it's open to interpretation. And tip number 7, makeup. Makeup is a very, very powerful tool. And both in live action and also anime, you can certainly use makeup to change the kind of look of your face, your shape, that sort of thing. But that's about all they have in common. In live action, you're trying to replicate the look of a real life actor to try and make your face look sort of like them. And they will have very specific makeup. Most of the time, it's quite natural. Unless it's Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. However, like detail in anime, with makeup, it's open to interpretation. You can be adding as much or as little as you like, and what you deem correct for the character that you're trying to portray. Because a lot of the time, they don't really draw makeup into, the animation. Unless there's a very specific reason or a specific look. So those are 7 points for you to consider when you're going to be cosplaying either from a live action or some sort of animation or artwork. And if you're a judge, please keep all of these points in mind so you can judge fairly. Thank you all so much for joining me in this discussion in the comments below. Tell us what you think about the topic and what you prefer to cosplay. Do you prefer live actions or do you prefer, animation? Which one do you think is more of a challenge? Which one do you think is easier? Tell me. And if there's anything else you want to add, please let us all know. I love reading the comments. Anyway, guys, make sure you like if you did like this video. If you didn't, click like anyway. Hey! And don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more of things like this from me. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!